It's kind of like the best way I found is kind of like the Socratic method. Do we know what the Socratic method is?
Nope.
Okay, it's just a way of just Socrates, 400 BC, like dude in a fucking toga would show up in a crowd of people that were not as intelligent as he was, and he would pick arguments with people, and he would I think they killed him for it, but he would argue about.
Sounds like you, Alex.
Kind of sounds like you.
I believe he killed himself.
Did he kill himself? He drank like poison or something.
Rather than
Hemlock.
Yeah.
Hemlock. Okay. So yeah, he'd basically go into like an argument. Somebody would say something that he knows he's smarter. He would go into the argument. He'd say wild shit. He'd be like, they'd ask him something, or they'd say a point, and he'd go, "What is courage?" And like fucking blow up people's minds. People don't know what he's talking about. But Socratic method is just refuting somebody's ideology down to this is fucking Christ's sake.
I'm looking at
He's
Jeff.
smoking a joint, drinking a fucking Capri Sun.
Capri Sun.
I'm sorry, dude. It was on sale.
Jesus
I got
fucking
hella berry
Christ.
glass. I'm sorry, guys.
Fucking
I was at the
shit.
grocery store. They had hella Capri Suns, dude. That's a lie.
Oh my
I'm gonna be
God,
real.
dude.
They're not even Capri Suns. They're Kool-Aid jammers. Okay, I'm just saying.
Oh, fuck. We're never going to get through this, Nathan.
I'm not gonna do this, man.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm really into what you're talking about.
You do you. This is a meeting place for misfits, ne'er-do-wells, nonconformists, the oppressed, and the marginalized. It's refuge for refuge, a squared circle for square pegs, a ringside seat for the doomed generation to cheer on the death of the American dream. We believe, as we circle the drain, the best course of action is to enjoy the ride. Abandon all hope and embrace the surrender. Welcome to the LaCroix Underground.
Well, I got... Jeff.
Yeah.
I carry this weight of wanting to do a funny story, like per podcast. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but I try to tie them in to the theme of the podcast. So like the drug test was the drug episode,
Yeah. That's a good time.
and we were going to do one on I forget what we were talking about, a power play or something. Oh no, the Gillette one, like the masculinity and toxic masculinity. And I was like, I got one story about toxic masculinity, and I told you today, Mason, and you're like, there's no way Jeff's gonna let us do that story.
Oh god, yeah.
There's no way.
Okay, so give me the 2-second sidebar. So I can
Oh, I know where this is going right now. Off the top.
What is it?
We didn't discuss this, but I totally know where this is going.
What is it?
No clue.
Okay, then
You're
tell us.
such an asshole right now.
Guess.
What's going on?
Please.
I'd be curious to see.
Oh,
it.
this is the Knox story, right?
the Knox story.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have what's the problem with that? Why would I have a problem with that
Well,
story?
because we figured you're a little more self-conscious than the rest of
Oh
us.
no, I don't care about shit like that.
Because I think that story,
I'll tell that
is
story
a
all day.
really good story that refutes toxic masculinity.
yeah, because we didn't beat the living shit out of that dude.
All right, and
Yeah.
you
And I was kind of pussy.
you
about
cowered
it.
out.
I cowered out for him.
where we
right?
can talk about how 15 years ago that was a fucking chump move.
Well, and we can talk about how we
You
all
were
know
enlightened,
that-
dude. You're the hero of the
predecessor.
story.
You're the
I
predecessor,
understand that,
dude.
but I also know I'm gonna get played like I'm some kind of bitch that was scared of that dude.
All right.
No,
Let me set the scene.
All right, please.
I'm going to set the scene.
Because we have the same perspective.
So,
Everybody kind of did.
Not you.
Are
you
we
were out
do-
there
are
before
you-
we knew
are
what was
you
going
doing
on.
the story right now?
oh yeah, I'm getting into the story.
We're gonna
right
do
now.
the story
This
right
is
now.
the story.
All right, yeah. So
It's,
yeah.
it's this is
Okay.
what we're talking about.
All right, let's do this.
right.
So set the scene. We're all
That's funny.
we're all piled in the living room of our house. We all kind of like live together here or there.
There was a bunch of dudes.
How long ago
in
is
a
this?
Tiny
There's-
house.
It's like 15 years ago.
Say,
Okay.
Yeah.
Ballpark?
15,
Yeah.
10 to 15.
It'd be 12.
Okay.
There's
I think 12 to
6 of
13.
us probably, all over. Just so you know, like all over 6 feet. Most of us well over 200 pounds.
Yeah.
We're sitting in the living room.
That's very nice. Thanks for that one.
We're sitting in the living room. We're all watching Soul Plane.
Were we
what we were
watching?
watching?
I
We were
wasn't
watching
watching.
Soul
Oh,
Plane.
yeah, you
I don't
were.
remember
Yes, you
that.
were.
We were
I
all
know.
sitting around in the living room watching Soul Plane.
Wow.
And in the house, there's a front door
remember
in the
Snoop.
living room that just opens right into the front yard. There's no like entryway, foyer, nothing like that. And we're all sitting there, and then all of a sudden, Jeff just like dipped out the front door.
Right. Let me start this over. So before the door was closed, I didn't dip out. I went out to have a cigarette. Most people who know me, I don't drink. But that night I was drinking. And as you know, like at that time, I was drinking Sparks, which were like malt liquor.
Shit.
Malt, they were malt liquor.
Red Bull.
Like Red Bull. It was like Red Bull and malt liquor.
It was Four Loko before Four
Jeff,
Loko.
Yeah,
Jeff,
it was the original Four Loko.
Jeff disappears, but none of us think anything about it because he stepped out to have a smoke.
I had to smoke like I always do, but I generally left the door open, as we would. We all could, and so I was smoking a cigarette, and at the same time, I saw a man who I never met before, but I knew exactly who he was. I was dating a girl at the time who was weird, kind of gothic. I don't know what the fuck. Just
She was insane.
Subculture
insane,
shit.
but that sex must have been amazing.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, she had a tattoo on the back of her head. That should tell you everything you ever need to know. And I know this man to be her ex-boyfriend. He was an Asian piercer.
Body piercer.
Body
usually
piercer
people would say.
with dreadlocks.
Piercer of Asians?
Yeah, no, he didn't pierce just Asian people. He was like equal opportunity. He had dreadlocks, and he had the kind of same matching gothic counterculture clothing as that she would wear, which I don't
Which,
wear.
when you said you knew exactly who it was when he pulled up, that's why.
Yeah, that's why. Because, I mean, he's not the run-of-the-mill dude. So me trying to hide my ass, because essentially I had broken up with, at that time, she was my ex-girlfriend and his ex-girlfriend. And I knew that she was not very happy about that decision. She came to my work and threatened, basically said that she wasn't going to leave until they called the cops. Kind of had a reason why I lost that job. And so she was a little, out there. This dude walks up. I tried to close the door on all my friends because I was...
It's the two sides of dating crazy. Right?
Exactly. I was completely embarrassed of what I knew was about to happen.
Take the bad with the good, my friend.
And to be fair, I'm a very large man. I'm 6'2". I'm 250 pounds. At the time, I may have been even fatter. I don't know.
He was small.
He's very small. He was like 5'6", 7", 100
an average person.
He's an average guy. But I also know him to be someone who likes to pull knives on people and threaten to stab them and maybe try to stab them. But I don't know that he'd ever actually stab someone.
Good enough.
And and everyone who knows me too knows that I'm pretty much a pacifist. I don't want to fight people. I want to find a way to.
Yeah, you're Teddy Ruxpin. Dude.
I am. It doesn't mean I can't fight. It just means that you shouldn't beat people up. And I think
You've punched me plenty of times.
And I think that people that are larger and stronger kind of walk with that. That you got to have a little more control and not beat the shit out of some little dude who comes up and talks to you. But so he walks up and I try to take this. Hey, yeah, I know. Hey, man. And he slaps the drink out of my hand.
The Sparks?
He smacked the Sparks square out of my hand.
Oh, you didn't tell me that. I would have
he
fucking
should
gone
fucking
crazy
die.
right from the get.
So he hits that, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be this kind of party. And I looked at him, and I said, you shouldn't touch me again. And I was like, calm down. Why? What the fuck is going on? He starts to tell me, I think that he was told that I tried to rape my ex, and that I may have been physically abusive to her in some way, in which I haven't.
So, yeah, I mean,
Obviously.
to anybody, let me just speak on Jeff's behalf. Jeff's fucking Teddy Ruxpin. So the idea is that he broke up with a girl. She went back to her ex, told some elaborate story. He got pissed off. Okay, at what point did we all realize that shit was going down?
Let's turn it back over to Zach. Zach.
Yeah.
Set the scene. This is not a bad area, not a nice area of Signal Hill, Long Beach area. But on the street, it's a quiet street because there's schools around and there's only a couple neighbors. We have
on one side of the street, it's a
family on
school.
one side, and on the other side, we have Alex's friend Wrinklehead.
Power play.
That fool's
All right.
got some strength.
But it's a relatively quiet neighborhood in the middle of the city. So we were all in the house watching Soul Plane. Jeff was outside having his encounter. Alex, why don't you take it from here? What happened next?
I don't know who noticed that Jeffrey had been gone, but someone, I think it may have been our
John.
friend John,
Yeah.
noticed that there was something going on outside, and we all look out the windows, which face the front of the house, and we see a dreadlock pierced Asian guy yelling at.
So, mind you, we don't know this guy or his story.
We don't
so
know
we
any
don't,
of this.
Yeah, we don't know. We're just like, what is going on? Did this
Jeff-
guy just walk up
I've
off the
tried to
street?
hide
We
it.
all knew that Jeff was dating a crazy woman, but he did like hide all this backstory. I'd never heard of the guy before.
No, didn't know. No context.
She was probably cheating on me with the bulk of the relationship with him.
Who knows?
No, I know. I think.
Okay, so
Like, I'm pretty sure.
continue.
And so we were much younger then, and
Nothing to lose, man.
much less enlightened than we are now.
I'm pretty sure this was like a Friday or Saturday night too.
And we're
Yeah.
like,
this is like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock on like a.
and there's
Friday.
a lot of us, right? And we're
Before
like,
our testosterone really started to decline.
yeah, and we're like, we're gonna fuck this dude up, right? And so
There
all
was
of
at
us,
least
sure,
like 5 or
dude.
6 in the house. In our house alone, there was
We
like
all
5 or
piled
6
out of
my
the
best
house.
friends.
except for one,
And it looked like the cover of The Outsiders.
except for one who one of the roommates
gold.
went and hid inside of his room.
we won't. Name
Don't
him
ever
out of
forget.
respect.
Like for real. You guys are cool.
And,
beeping out all day.
And then there's like this little, what's it called, a fun box, like the skater box on the yard.
Oh, we built like a really not crappy deck. It's withstood the stand.
Well,
the-
we're
the
a crappy
sands of time.
skateboarders, so we built a
And I
crappy
have a
deck.
metal baseball bat, like Bo Jackson, over my shoulders, and I stand up on this.
Someone had a
this fun
2x4.
box.
Somebody had a 2x4.
I'm sure everyone was grabbing shit, and we all just came out and we all stood there.
And I asked everyone not to beat the living shit out of this guy.
Well, we're respectable people.
You
so
are.
we're waiting around for someone to make the first move. If the first move, I mean, honestly, if he were to attack you,
Yeah.
and you were to make a move and fight him, we would just stand there and be like,
Until-
yeah,
well,
yeah,
first
yeah.
off-
the only time we would jump in is if we thought you needed our help.
I mean,
yeah.
at first glance, no idea what's going on.
True.
Is this just like some random dude walking down the street that just
Right,
started
we
talking
don't
shit
know.
to Jeff?
We were just making our presence known. Like, if this shit goes south, you're in trouble.
And verbally telling this guy as well.
And
Yeah.
He was throwing insults and he was getting a little squirrely.
He was being shitty.
And
with me,
props to
obviously.
him, by the way.
Yeah, it's just
Dude.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like these 6 large men come piling out of a house with weapons, and he's like, he don't back down. I would have jumped in my truck and
Well,
taken off.
that's not true. But that's not true. He backed off when everybody came out because like we were about
But he didn't
to fight.
dip out.
he was still
He didn't
running
dip
his
out,
mouth.
But this is the thing. He kept saying, "Come talk to me alone. Come talk to me alone." And I was like, "No, bitch, you're gonna try to stab me." Straight up to him.
I
was
heard
like,
the
"I'm not-
rumors."
I know the deal. I can
And
see the
then
knife in
the
your belt.
best thing happened.
the best part of the
Yeah,
story.
Yes. Well,
So Wrinklehead wasn't home.
yeah,
And
well,
Wrinklehead people
came
will
out,
be
though.
familiar with from the Power Play story.
Wrinklehead came out.
He did?
Yeah, but he was late. He was just after Juan.
Okay.
He came out like
delivering
that.
the
He's like,
pizzas, dog.
What's going on?
Yeah, he was not even tripping at all. He
Okay,
didn't-
so our neighbors to the other side are this older Mexican couple, Juan, and they don't live there anymore, so I don't remember the wife's name.
They had a couple kids our age.
Yeah. And the kid, Hugo, came out.
Super cool people.
Yeah.
Great.
They saw this
And
big
we were all
commotion,
sad.
and his wife comes out with a broom. You remember this?
Yeah,
And
the
then
wife
Hugo
had a
comes
broom.
out, and Juan comes out, and Hugo's just like, "You touch him, you go to hospital. You understand? You understand? You touch him, you're going to the hospital." And then Juan does some OG Mexican gangster shit.
It's the most gangster shit I've
Where
ever
we
seen.
have a California pepper, which is kind of like a weepy willow with like these long, dangly like switches, and he reaches up into the tree and he grabs out a bunch of these long branches and starts wrapping them around his knuckles, like.
And I myself am going, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Yeah,
Homemade
why is he
boxing
ripping
spats.
these? Like,
Yeah.
we're all sitting there, like, yelling at this little Asian kid. And he starts ripping these branches out of the tree, wrapping them around his knuckles, like brass knuckle style. Branch fucking knuckles.
fucking
dude. That's
knuckles.
OG Mexican shit. And he's like, let's go. And then his wife comes out with the broom.
He's like 50, 60 years old.
Yeah.
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 No,
okay.
his wife came out. I thought she was gonna be like, Juan, what the fuck are you doing? Get back in the
No.
house.
And she was
Oh
ready
no,
to
she
go.
just like flips that broom around. And she's like, all right, I got my man's back. Let's
And the
do this."
best.
And to be fair, to be real, these are our good neighbors, and this just talks about community in Long Beach and whatever. I guarantee you they don't know my name.
Yeah, yeah.
It is totally possible that they knew
Oh,
Zach's name, Alex's name.
Oh, no,
I don't
no,
know.
no,
if
no,
they
no,
knew
no,
my
no,
name.
no. I'm almost 100% positive they thought that Jeff and I were the same person.
Exactly.
That just goes to show, man. I mean, it was a beautiful
They
thing.
was the homies, though. I
It
felt
was a
love.
beautiful
I felt
thing.
the love.
My
Everyone was
favorite
out in
part,
mass-
besides the
mass
branch
force.
knuckles, is when Knox swings the knife to Juan. Like,
Knox
points
is
it at
the
Juan.
assailant.
And Juan, like this 60-year-old Mexican dude, instead of being like, whoa, 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 doubles his step. Remember, he double times like,
Came
towards
at
him,
him
like,
when he
I'm going
pulled the
to
knife.
fuck you up. Like,
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy with a wife, couple kids, maybe grandkids in the future. He's got things to lose, and he is walking up on this assailant.
a guy points a knife at him, and he double times towards him. Like, I'm going to fuck you
So,
up.
Jeff's there. He's got a posse at his back.
I kept going. It's going to get past this part.
He's got literally 10 people, 12 people standing behind him.
Most of us dark and scary.
There's virtually no opportunity in sight
And if
where
there
you
weren't-
would be inflicted with any violence whatsoever.
If there weren't anybody there and he had a knife, I would literally beat the living shit out of him. And I think everybody can kind of attest that. It's not me trying to be a super
this
hard
was like
guy.
a 90s hip hop video where all your boys are in the back.
Yeah.
We were ready to roll.
I mean, he would have to come at you.
He would have had to cut me to do anything.
If he came at you, yeah, you probably would have put him out with one punch.
But the thing is,
Like you did Mason in the Tequila Jack's parking lot. You would have done that to
no Tequila Jacks did.
my first concussion. Go ahead. Continue, Zach.
Oh, so Jeff's there, and it's all kind of building, and it's what happens now? There's people standing there. Jeff's there. It's kind of Knox's move, right? What's his plan here? What's he gonna do?
And
How does he basically extricate himself from the situation?
I'm holding everyone back. I'm
Yeah.
holding Juan back.
Yeah.
I'm holding our neighbors back and my friends with bats and 2x4s. And then Knox,
He offers you.
I say, can you just leave? I just want you to leave. I
you
know
keep
this-
trying to get him to leave.
He's
you are going
been
to
lied
fucking
to.
die if you hang out here. You
Yeah.
need to go.
He's been lied
There's
to.
no fear on any of our parts, right?
Yeah.
Why would we be scared? There's literally 12 of us with bats and branch knuckles and brooms and 2x4s against one small man that
And-
might have a knife here.
And
He offers you an ultimatum.
he offers me basically an ultimatum. He breaks out his Razor flip phone. And
Hold on. Before you, I'm gonna play the part
Oh,
of our neighbor Juan. I'm gonna play the part of our neighbor Juan, the branch knuckles guy, and I'm going to interrupt your story with what he said.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
So Knox is like, I'll leave under one condition, and he calls my ex on the phone.
Trigger warning.
Yeah, and I apologize for the people that have to hear this, but it's a different time, and I didn't say it. This guy's a fucking dickhead. And he says, I want you to get on the phone and say, you're a faggot and you suck dick every day.
Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that.
And I grabbed the phone and I said what he asked for me to say in the phone, and I watched my neighbor look at me like I was
Juan
the biggest
was
piece of shit
Crushed.
on the
He
planet.
didn't even say anything. He just
Yeah.
The branch knuckles slowly unraveled around
Well,
his
no,
hand.
no.
Slipped from his
To be
fingers.
fair, I'm going to be fair to Juan because he didn't play me like that. He legit put his arm on my stomach and pulled me back into the crowd of people and said, "Don't say anything else. Don't say anything else."
And then they turned and walked back into their house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean it does.
And he left.
Well,
left.
because
He
now,
left.
I mean, yeah, now I'm an adult. I got, we look at things differently, right? Then at that time,
Oh God,
That was
I
the
so
most-
embarrassed.
the most shameful moment. I mean, I remember just being like, Jeff, you had everything, you had the world in your hands. Tell this guy to go fucking kick rocks, man.
Smack that phone out of his hand and stomp on it.
I know that I'm I'm not the hardest dude in the world, the most virtuous dude in the world or whatever. But at that moment, I was like, this dude has been lied to by a chick who everyone in the room knows had my head in a fucking spin, dude. I was like, oh my God, this is a person. Oh wow. And I was
had you
on
on
some
some Dr.
stupid shit.
Feelgood shit.
I was on some stupid shit. And I had just basically broken myself of the stupid shit, and I was like, I can't really like blame this dude. If she'd have told me he tried to rape her, I would have gone and killed him. Like at 3 months before.
Dude, you know? Both of you guys were getting played. You know?
Yeah,
It's
no,
like,
100%, 100%. And
but
it was so gross.
At the time, it was. At the time, we were like, man, Jeff, man. But
my friends were embarrassed.
Now it's a pretty good example.
Thanks to the Me Too movement, everybody understands I was just rejecting toxic masculinity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
We didn't need to pummel that dude in the middle of the street because he had been lied to.
Well, now we
I
would have
can
pummeled
take
him for saying faggot.
Right, exactly, right? Like, I took the pride hit. I could say some stupid shit to a girl I didn't want to see anymore. It was okay, but I don't think, like I said, I'm glad Juan thinks I'm that.
And we're back.
And we're back.
We should have given you a warning before we went into that last break. If you got a dab, it's time to hit it. If you
Real talk.
we're gonna get into. Let me use this time to invite everyone listening to please join our Facebook group, LaCroix Underground. Just type it into your search and it should come up.
I mean,
and answer
interact,
a few questions.
please, interact.
Don't
be
feel
afraid
free
to
to
post.
post.
Yeah.
But you'll see on there that this is Alex. I posted last week that I want Mason, who is the guy that reads the most philosophy in this room.
Our resident philosophicaler.
Correct. That I read a lot of political philosophy, and I have always struggled. And by always, I mean the 2 years that I knew it existed. I've struggled with dialectical materialism.
Can I just say, and I'm sorry for interrupting,
Please, yeah, ask questions.
but as the way a little more dumb fuck than you, like I've known about it for 3 days, you know, and so I Googled it, like trying to be like, hey, let's get a little familiar, and then it said it was kind of like if you combined dialectics and materialism, and then they said it was kind of like a way of looking at life.
What?
And I said, that doesn't explain shit to me, and I don't fucking get
Dude,
what's
that's
going
been
on.
my problem with it. Is like you read up on it. I try to read up on it, and it's like see this person, and then you click on that person's link, and then it's like you're reading. It's like and then see this person, and you just it's
Wikipedia
well, I don't know what it is,
wormhole.
but apparent to me, it's a philosophy that has a long history that of very few people who knew what it meant, and they just kind of. It's like a secret society passing forward like this idea. It is so difficult to read.
Difficult to read. It doesn't have to be difficult to understand. So we can kind of just there's if you're a Hegelian scholar or you're like a philosophy dude, I'm gonna try to be as correct as I can.
Everybody's eyebrows went, what the fuck is a Hegelian?
Okay.
Huge alien?
Is that a planet?
Yeah. Okay. So, would you call this like a groundwork of Marx philosophy, right?
I have read and been told several times that you can't truly understand Marx until you understand it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like most things in philosophy, it's always a philosopher with an idea that's groundbreaking, with some remnant of a previous philosopher that he's taken something from. So, like dialectical materialism are two schools of philosophy that are basically brought together, and they're taken from past philosophers. So I'm not going to do materialism, but we can do dialectics. Think dialogue, right?
We'll do materialism.
We
just
will
not
do it.
today.
Not tonight. No.
Yeah.
So I look when you go and you Google dialectical materialism, you get very vague. Oh man, we're just talking about ideas, bro. Like stuff like that,
It's an idea.
like
Think
Dave
about
Dave
it.
Rubin shit.
I clicked on a YouTube lecture on it, and it was, many people say that dialectical materialism is a process to view the world through. But if you think of it as a process, you don't get it.
Ooh.
I was like, no, I don't.
You're right.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
So I went down a long Reddit wormhole where pretty much people were like okay with you talking about it as a process. and not a method, right? So, but you kind of have to look at what is dialectics. So dialectics is a way that people would just talk about an idea. You would say something like, not you necessarily, but you would say something like, I think we should build a wall.
I think we should build a wall.
Okay, and the other guy would say, well, why would we build a wall? There's more people, leaving the United States than entering the United States, right? And you kind of it's just a way of arguing with somebody, trying to get to a point. It's kind of like the best way I found is kind of like the Socratic method. Do we know what the Socratic method is?
Nope.
Okay, it's just a way of just Socrates, 400 BC, like dude in a fucking toga would show up in a crowd of people that were not as intelligent as he was, and he would pick arguments with people. And he would I think they killed him for it, but he would argue about...
Sounds like you, Alex.
Kind of sounds like you.
I believe he killed himself.
Did he kill himself? He drank like poison or something.
Rather than
Hemlock.
Yeah.
Hemlock, okay. So yeah, he'd basically go into like an arc. Somebody would say something that he knows he's smarter. He would go into the argument. He'd say wild shit. He'd be like, they'd ask him something, or they'd say a point, and he'd go, "What is courage?" And like fucking blow up people's minds. People don't know what he's talking about. But Socratic method is just refuting somebody's ideology down to this is fucking Christ's sake.
I'm looking at
He's smoking a joint, drinking a fucking Capri Sun.
I'm sorry, dude. They was on sale.
Jesus
I got
fucking
berry
Christ.
glass. I can't tell you. I'm sorry, guys.
Fucking
I was at the
shit.
grocery store. They had hella Capri Suns, dude. That's a lie.
Oh my
I'm gonna be real.
God, dude.
They're not even Capri Suns. They're Kool-Aid Jammers. Okay, I'm just saying.
Oh fuck! We're never gonna get through this, Mason.
I'm not gonna do this, man.
I didn't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm really into what you're talking about.
You do you, Holmes. You do you.
Hey,
He's like giggling, and I look over at him to see why he's giggling, and he's sipping on a Capri Sun.
So basically, we got this dude, Socrates, forcing people to look inward and to analyze
It's basically playing like
their
a devil's advocate.
their established ideas.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's refuting ideas.
Yeah.
So dialectics is basically just a way of arguing ideas,
Well, he sounds like
discussing
in
ideas.
asking questions, he's making people refute their own ideas.
Absolutely. So that's the method where you get somebody to finally agree with you at the end and agree that the way they've been thinking about things has not been logical. Okay?
Gotcha.
Sounds a lot
It's
like
Socratic method is used.
sounds a lot like Jordan
throughout-
Peterson and Ben Shapiro.
No.
Okay.
No. Socratic method is used by every prosecutor and every defense attorney ever. Like it's the most common thing used in a courtroom. But you can't really do dialectics until you do. So yeah, you go and you Google dialectical materialism, and then you find dialectics, and you click on dialectics, and it takes you to a guy named Hegel.
Yeah.
Right.
Hegel.
George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, who was
Power name.
this is like post Enlightenment
Italian.
German.
That's the joke.
Oh, good God.
Post Enlightenment.
I did so much work on this. I spent so much time on this.
Genuinely, I challenge you to explain it to me like
Yes.
I'm a 5-year-old. I don't think that's possible, but I genuinely, sorry, I'm getting some secondhand here.
I swear.
I genuinely want to know this.
Okay. I mean, I have like 8 pages of shit written in front of me.
Yeah,
so
no,
I'm gonna
do it.
I'm trying to do my best.
Run it. I think you're doing a good job. It's making sense.
Enlightenment, right? French Revolution, British American Revolution. People were basically going away from metaphysics, moving into things like reason and logic to try to make sense of stuff, right? But then, right after the Enlightenment, around that time, you have a guy named Kant, who comes around, and he's a German idealist.
That's with a K too.
So his world is broken up. His philosophy, I'm just skimming the top, man, broad brush. But his philosophy is that the world is made of 2 different things. Objects as they are, and then objects as you perceive them to be. So that's like, a fruit or a nut or a tree has a scientific explanation. That's totally, that's just what it is. It's on its own. But how we perceive it to be, we can only look at it through kind of our own eyes, right? To make sense of,
That's a flashback to Platonic form, right?
kind of, yeah. Nobody else probably knows what that is.
Yeah, so explain what you just said. What's that?
It's the idea that the perfect essence of something exists. So like that table's not perfect, but we can look at that and be like, that's a table. But then we can look at this table over here just a little bit differently, and it looks differently, but we know it's a table. So like, how do we know that that's also a table? So there's this perfect idea of what a table is.
And Kant was really into like individualism, and because it's just post-Enlightenment. That's all the Enlightenment is about. I mean, before the Enlightenment, we're talking feudalism, right? There was no freedom. There was nothing like that. So post-Enlightenment, we have romanticism. We have people involved in art and music, and kind of like a liberalism. And this is all new at the time. But Kant goes in with his fancy German idealism. But it's based on the individual. It's based on your consciousness. Because in order for me to tell you that that's a shoe on the ground, I have to be conscious enough to realize that that's a shoe and that I'm a person noticing that that's a shoe.
Okay.
Hegel says that consciousness cannot be consciousness unless someone else is there too, like another being. Like you have to be able to like see your awareness through somebody else. So he believes consciousness is social. And you can see where this starts to plant the seed for things like socialism.
Right.
And
even though I don't know much about Hegel, but I know he was like a conservative kind of dude.
He was another one of these philosophers that was groomed to be like a pastor and went and started reading people like Kant and then going into teaching. I think he taught, like one of these fancy schools at the time. And yeah, he ditched the whole pastor thing. He decided to be, a philosopher. So, but he was also a German idealist, but he was like, again, taking from Kant, forming his own thing. So his thing is that he thinks that there's a social consciousness. It's kind of the very beginning of all of this kind of stuff. Dialectics is not, that was kind of his thing, but it was, Jesus Christ.
So by social consciousness, do they just mean an awareness of others and of your place among a group of people, or does it mean like a shared consciousness?
A shared consciousness.
But not in a Jungian sense.
No, not
Okay.
like in some weird
Not a
metaphysical weird
sense.
sense.
But what you're saying is that like me experiencing consciousness is, or not you, but Kant, right? Is like that Zach has to. I have to see Zach notice me,
Right.
for me to actually have consciousness,
Right.
Which makes sense. Like I don't know that it's right, but it makes sense in a way. Like that, if I was locked in a box by myself, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, go with it, right?
Yeah, like if you're stuck in a black room by yourself,
And you've never seen another person, you don't know what you are.
You don't know that who you are. Yeah,
Or
that's
what is what.
or what you are, or what anything is.
It's
yeah,
like-
to validate your consciousness.
Yeah,
you'd have to see it
be-
through the eyes of somebody else.
For sure.
So therefore,
This is gonna sound
consciousness.
cheesy as shit, but this is kind of like that 7th grade stoner idea that like we are human beings, like we're created to observe the universe, like we are the universe observing itself.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, no,
That's fucking nuts, right?
But this is so. Once he says that consciousness is social, so in order to have it, you got to have somebody else with it. You build upon that. Then you have groups, you have societies. So that society, that culture that you're learning from, it's very much so the nurture argument, not the nature argument. Like he's like, yeah, we get our ideas from the culture we're in, from the society we're in. He calls that social awareness, the spirit. Now it doesn't have to have a metaphysical meaning behind it, but in order to obtain like a self-image, you must see yourself through other people's eyes.
And if that's needed, then you're
So he thought
you need other people to thrive, and that
he was
feeds into it.
he's critiquing the Enlightenment because he's thinking that individualism is kind of tearing apart like the social awareness that kind of makes us who we are and makes us like act and want to be better towards like our neighbor. So once you start breaking, he thought it was breaking social bonds and relationships and ideas, and a lot of pre-Enlightenment stuff was like social hierarchies and You know, slavery was one of the biggest things to come out of the Enlightenment, right?
Sure.
All right. Okay. He believed institutions were necessary to protect people's freedoms and protect ideas. He thought it was like the state's job to basically like take care of the poor, to feed the poor. That was like an unheard of idea at that time. Like that's really not something that's like talked about.
But
in the
put a
Enlightenment.
pin on that. And I know we're talking Hegel, not Marx.
Right.
But I mean, and like you said earlier, like Marx borrows a lot from this. This flies directly in the face of Jordan Peterson's ideas, right? That like
Absolutely. Jordan Peterson's trying
he
to take
believes
us
that we
back
are
before the
dissolving
Enlightenment.
institutions, and that is a Marxist agenda.
Right.
Whereas to be anyone who knows anything knows that no, Marx is about establishing institutions.
Right.
It's not dissolving of institutions.
Right. And
Anyway.
I think, like, yeah, the true critique of Jordan Peterson is reading about all the people that he talks shit on. Right. Like, you have to know who he's talking shit on to be like, oh, dude, this guy's a clown. He believes in Jungian archetypes and social hierarchies, and that's shit that we fucking got rid of during the Enlightenment. That's old shit. But his main thing, the dialectical argument, is a process in which you see the world in a certain way. Like, say, Enlightenment would say, we're free. We have freedom. But there's a 3-step move here with dialectics. His Hegelian dialectics. There's, you notice that we're freedom. We're calling ourselves free.
Hey, we're free.
But you have to find a contradiction to that. The contradiction to saying that you're free is the fact that you have slaves. So how free are you when there's a good amount of your people that are in slavery?
Okay.
So now he didn't use the term thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, but it's this 3-step process that goes around in a circle. And this is probably what takes you into Marx, because he has a step where you notice something's wrong, you contradict it, and you have a synergy where it works, and it works in a circle. But as soon as you hit the synergy, you're right back at the thesis again. So
a new thesis. A move to
a new thesis. Yeah. So the world is a constant. He believes
this is the process you were mentioning.
This is the process. So, and the problem with the Enlightenment process and their idea of human history was that they're going off of like Plato's, like, what is it, the radio reductio ad absurdum idea that like listen, no, you've heard that term, right? You've heard that term, right? But like reason says, if we try something and it doesn't work, or it can't be 100% true, then we scratch it. Yeah. And we move on to something else. Yeah. And it's linear, and it constantly goes back, and then it stops, and it goes back. His idea, like Marx's idea, is that it's culture-based, and it goes around in a circle, and we don't stop, and we just keep moving. So as soon as we find something wrong...
This is blowing my mind right now. So this plugs in...
It's a refining process.
This plugs into to the permanent revolution that Marx spoke about.
Yes.
This plugs into anarchist movements where there is no goal in anarchy. It's a constant refinement.
Right. It's a constant
anarchy
struggle.
Is a process, not a goal.
So when Marx says things like life is made up of like what, class struggles, right? Isn't that like one of the lines?
Right.
Because it's a constant. It's circular. It just keeps moving. As soon as you get to the synergy where you've taken, the thing is, you take from like, so if you say everything that moves around, you're still taking those things from the past with you along. You're just dissolving them and making them fluid throughout your movement in society as we go along. So Hegel thought that you could explain all of human history through this process of dialectics.
That makes sense. So we're not rejecting a thesis, but we're changing the thesis.
Right.
Yeah,
because it moves
refining
forward.
I like that refining.
So we
idea,
take
too.
great ideas from the past,
Yeah.
and we bring them with us, but they are being refined.
Right. And again, so I wrote it down. I didn't say it right before, but Enlightenment was just taken from Plato, 1600 years before that, and this reductio ad absurdum, this is what reason is. Reason is if the premises of an argument leads to a contradiction, then they conclude that the premise must be false. And then they start all over again. And that's reason. But he's using logic, and he's saying that, you go around, you correct your wrongs, but you're still taking that past with you. And as soon as you get back to square one again, that synergy, it automatically is square two. So you just keep correcting. And it's progress. It is progress. It's a process. But it's done through argument, ideas, discussions. So it's not a thing. Like dialectics isn't a thing. It's just a way of discussing ideas, getting rid of the bad ones, but still taking things that were good and taking them with you, because it's just a process of evolution.
Well, and that like you said, that thing you talked about with the shared consciousness, like it's that idea of individualism versus like the whole, like
Collectivism.
Like once your consciousness depends on other people in your community, then you then depend on other people in your community, and then
Right.
you have a stake in their success, like
Right.
as people.
He used, I think it was like negation of negation. It's like basically a problem, a contradiction, and then a solution.
Yeah.
But as soon as you hit solution, you're going to find another problem again.
yeah.
And you're just going to keep going. So he's arguing for like kind of like a circular type of reasoning that we would use to get through. He thought you could explain all of human history like this. So how this...
right? Because yeah,
He believed
it
you
all.
could.
It's like genetics. You can just trace it back.
Right. So he had problems with reason because
So it is
he
a
thought
lot-
people were leaning too much on reason coming
It is
out
a
of the
lot like
Enlightenment.
evolution.
It is very much so like evolution.
You're bringing the new trait, but you're not.
leaving the old stuff.
So
that
I
was
haven't
absurd.
done
But
any.
not necessarily leaving the old stuff. You're bringing it and then changing it.
Yeah, that's true too.
Oh, I see where he's coming from.
Yeah, it was kind of like you just gotta once these wheels grease a little bit, then
That's
they'll move. But once you can kind of look at it, it's like it's nothing that you can hold in your hand. It's not a thing. It's just an idea. Like all these people were just taught that they're both German idealists, Kant
Yeah.
and then Hegel. So and they're taking from somebody else and they're just moving the wheel around. So I'm assuming materialism. We all kind of have an idea of materialism. It's shit that's real and authentic and it's in your face. There's no mysticism. There's no metaphysics.
It's
So
like,
I'm assuming that
behavioralism in psychology is only what can be measured. So you don't talk about dreams. You don't talk about your inner
right.
child. You talk about only things that can be measured.
So
what your actions.
and I think
what you
materialism could be fun because we probably already have like a basis in which to like pull ideas from on that because we kind of already know what that is.
Yeah.
So how that forms into that dialectical method of evolution and progress, moving around in a
Applied
circle
with-
and being pliable by your culture, which is because it's kind of odd that this is what we talked about in episode 2.
Yeah.
Because Hegel touches on that objective truth thing as well. And he says, if we just make all this shit up and we just doctor it and add to it and change it, like what's fucking truth? If like these things that we're saying are true are things we just made up and we've made adjustments to over time.
Yeah.
I'm trying. Did I kind
yeah,
of like?
I'm right there with you. I'm just wondering, like, how big of a revolution was this? I know, like, I've taken philosophy a few courses, and he's always mentioned. We've never really delved into the Hegel. Like, I'm familiar with Kant, and like, how big of a revolution? Like, are we still using Hegelian dialect?
No, I would say
Dialectics.
we probably use more of this whole reason argument because then you have these guys like the Sam Harris, these like Enlightenment lovers, and that's the reason thing. Where as soon as they think your premises has any contradiction in it, it's refuted.
Yeah, for sure.
Hegel's saying that no,
That's
a contradiction's good because a contradiction is going to contradict the first item, right? The first issue. But then we just fix it. We take the good stuff with us, but we just keep moving around in a circle. And this thing it's not a 1, 2, 3 step. Think of it as like a triangle, like a 1, 2, 3, and it just keeps bouncing from left to right to the bottom, back up to the top. It's a continual circle.
Yeah, I like it, and I think you're right. I think the gut reaction of most Americans is like, rationally, this doesn't work. Let's ditch it.
Yeah,
And that's at least. This isn't like the Marxist thing, but this is like the modern approach to communism. Like the number one thing you hear is like, tell me one society that was successful with communism.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, so I have my answers to that, but the real answer should be, so we should dismiss it.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
shouldn't we bring, like, we have this great idea,
Right.
and shouldn't we bring it to the 21st century?
Yeah, so Hegel would say something like, oh, the Enlightenment, yeah, it has problems, but it also has a lot of good stuff too. So we'll change it as we go. But if for someone to say something like, oh, like look at like Marx and look what it did with communism, and that's never going to work. It's like the Enlightenment gave us libertarians. Are we just supposed to scratch that? You know?
Libertarianism does sound a lot like that pre-Hegelian.
So it's nothing you and I'm like dialectical materialism. What is that? It's just people talking about ideas and how to refute shit, but not cancel it out, change it, adjust it, and it's fluid. It dissolves and it becomes fluid, and you just take the good with it and try to scratch off the stuff that didn't work.
Take them both.
Yeah,
and there you got the facts of life.
But it falls in line.
Dude.
It's deep, right? You never thought about it like that.
I think you just nailed exactly what Mason's saying. And can we end this episode on a little facts of life?
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, we can. So, like I was saying before, though, with him and his social awareness, Hegel, and his social justice and stuff like that, he was one of the first philosophers around his time to bring up things like. I'm probably going to be wrong on this. He may not be the first, but he was. It was notable of him to mention things like a strong institution to cover and take care of workers, to make sure that people that needed assistance were paid for and taken care of, and to create like specialized, protected. He called them like specialized protected working institutions. So I know another name for that. Union, right? There weren't that many people talking about unions back then.
Yeah.
So he was one of those guys too. So it was all about just kind of the social coercion of people.
I mean, you
together.
can see what's happening here. It's like so that we go from a feudalism where people are serfs, they're slaves,
they're
what
like
have you.
Yeah, you're classified as like where you fall on that hierarchy spectrum.
And then we have revolutions.
system.
Then we have revolutions that end this, and you're like, holy shit, I'm free.
Right.
No one says I need a philosophy, but
Right.
people that are free start thinking about, holy shit, I'm free.
Right.
What does that mean? So they go down that road and kind of go in their separate ways, have you from this like collected caste system. And then Hegel's like, okay, that's cool what you guys are doing, freedom, cool and everything, but we need to rein it back into a certain. We're not individuals.
Right.
We don't have to be slaves or beholden to each other.
But we need to work together.
We are a collective.
Right.
We can't dismiss that outright.
Yeah, and he saw it right after. I mean, I think he wrote his famous Phenomenology of the Spirit in like 1807. So what is that? 25 years after the revolution. So things take a long time, but I don't know.
That's interesting. I could see how he would definitely get pushback.
Yeah,
at
for
first,
sure.
People that are like, no. We are individuals.
Apparently, he's a
We're
shitty
founded
writer.
an entire country
Yeah,
on
from what I understand,
individualism.
I don't know how much pushback he got because he wrote in the style of the time, which was for other learned men.
He's what you would call a philosopher's philosopher.
He expected you to be an erudite before you pick up. That's why he's so difficult to read, and why I've struggled with him is he figures that you've already read all of his previous essays, so I don't need to catch you up on shit.
Yeah.
I'm just going in exactly where I am.
So get dude's cliff notes basically if you're trying to.
I
gotta have some backup there.
Like Kant is impossible to read, but like Hegel is like, whew.
Yeah, he's
No.
apparently not a good writer, a great thinker, but he's like one of the first to be like, okay, yeah, like let's rein back in this crazy individualism shit because we're still like social creatures. Like it's the nature and nurture argument. Like all this stuff goes back to that.
Today's philosopher writes for the layman, and that's people say that Sagan kind of started that. Like it's
make it easy to understand.
You're writing for people, and there is a certain monetary value to it. Like you can sell
and social value too. I mean, I get that dumbing down something isn't great, but like what Mason just did was a good social value to me. Like I wouldn't understand this shit for beans. And then, like, now I'm like, yeah, I understand exactly.
It's also
what
the dispersal of
about.
information is.
But I think
than it's
just
ever been, right?
it makes sense when you contrast it against what people did with arguments in the Enlightenment.
Yeah,
that's how.
Or now,
and
on
or
Jordy
now.
Pete, or
So that makes you just kind of go, well, if I thought that, like back to episode 2, but it's important for people to think about it and go, if we're calling, this guy who's black, and he's gay. And he's trans, or it's just like if you're classifying these people and you've been doing it for so long, and there's an authority that's doing it, calling it truth, then it's like, but we just made this shit up, man. Like we made it up. So what's truth then?
Construct,
If
man.
that's what
It's
we
all
call
a
truth.
construct.
So Hegel's doing this before a lot of people are doing it. You know, postmodernism is like 50s and 60s of, 20th century. So he's doing this shit in like early 19th century. It's like unheard of.
But at the same time, likes institutions.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, he's supportive of institutions.
Yeah.
Absolutely supportive of institutions because he does believe that we are social, but we need some sort of protections because we need to protect these ideas and keep them fluid and keep them solid and moving and constantly test them.
And is that, for me, I know I believe this, but maybe he didn't. But like, is that just because people are shit, right?
So,
Like,
anybody
we
who
have to do that
actually
'cause people are shit.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody actually so we're talking to actually follows some philosophy.
Yeah.
Jeff has a favorite philosopher that he doesn't know who it is, but it's Hobbes. It's the guy who says that life is just
we talk about
miserable, brutish, short, and
He's the tiger, right?
yeah. He's just like everything's garbage and shit. And
Well, but that's the thing. If he's saying that we have to establish these institutions to protect things like workers' rights and people's
And our
rights
ideas.
and our ideas, it's
Right.
because we are the biggest threat to them.
No, it's because the ideas that come out of the nature argument are the biggest threat.
It's because people are followers.
Okay.
There's in any group, you're 98% follower. And it's that video I posted in the Croix Underground Facebook group.
Check it
like
out.
that Marine.
Oh my
being-
God, let's talk about this real
But
fast.
like him being like,
Yeah, fuck you first and foremost. But yeah, let's keep going.
him being like, people died for your freedom to wear that communist shirt. And that's a common phrase. Like he says
Totally.
that, you hear it all the time. We're the land of the free because of the brave. Like,
Right.
and it's like, who? That's what I would have said to him: is who died so I can wear this shirt?
Yeah, I mean the guy
Like,
with the cool
who?
shirt, sweet shirt.
Sweet shirt guy.
He knew how to run his mouth. He didn't really make like super
It was a lot.
valid points.
Everyone failed
because he's like
in that,
17,
right?
Like,
Everybody failed in
Everybody failed, but he did. He did
Iraqian.
stand
That
up
was-
to a
that was
fucking
good.
Marine, with a
Yeah.
fucking crazy ass shirt on.
He
I was
tried
like,
to bite his
he's
flag.
stupid as hell, but he's got balls.
Yeah.
But the point remains that like there's these ideas like these that permeate our society that we don't question, right? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Like how many times have you heard like the land of the free
100%.
because of the brave, or people
Yeah.
died for you to be able to do this?
For those freedoms.
But you stop and you say like, who? And I honestly don't know who. What's the answer? Like
What?
when did Great Britain become free?
I mean, I don't fucking know.
I don't know either.
I got to work on
was
dialectical materialism.
So
right now,
for me to wear a freedom, like for me to wear a shirt to express my freedom, are we talking like
The Magna Carta.
Yeah.
or are we talking like the War of Independence? Like or like what are we?
Well,
Well,
and
I guess some
Yeah,
British
man,
people
thought-
died so I could wear this
like,
shirt.
people were pissed, and like the Boston Tea Party let me wear this fucking shirt.
But
Like, what
when
do you
in the
mean?
last 100 years did anyone die so I can wear this shirt?
Well, and isn't it about inalienable rights? Like, right? That's the whole deal, right? Inalienable rights. Rights
Yeah.
that you have not because of the piece of paper that's written, but because you have them by birth as a human being.
right?
So, like,
Yeah.
they aren't given to you by the construct or the death of the soldier.
They're protected.
They're protected by that, but that idea is protected really more protecting the boundaries to do what we want inside. Like, yeah, you're totally right. This
Yeah, I
is
mean,
why
like,
fuck
why
you,
are
I'm
we
not- I'm
starting?
not the
Why are we
cameraman.
starting shit all over the country in a bunch of wars? Like, that should be
Exactly.
the first question.
Yeah.
But, is there any? Will you at least tell me that when you walk out that door, you kind of understand dialectics a little more
for
than
sure.
you did when you came in?
I do. I mean, I'm stupid, so I'm very up on it now.
I'm very interested in what materialism brings to
Okay.
it.
All right.
How those get smushed
And I'm
together.
hoping that as I start doing materialism, maybe
Was that the teaser for the next episode?
yeah, I'm hoping they come
Stay
together.
tuned.
Come back for the materialism.
I'm hoping they come together.
Do you guys want to hear 4 dudes discuss the most complex ideas of a dead philosopher? Come back next week.